And welcome back to the Constitutionals podcast. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is a premiere podcast for the website, cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. Episode 297 of this show. Sorry, I had to make sure the dog was not hopping on the couch. I just told him to get off the couch. Yesterday was a big day for him. It was his, what they call gotcha day. The same day I adopted him, officially. It's been a year. It was on Tuesday of 2023, June 13th, 2023. Again, this year was a leap year, so I had to realize that. I was like, wait a minute, has it been 2 years? No. And we celebrated with a bone. He fully defecated inside of his crate on Tuesday morning at 1:30 a.m. Oh, man, I was deep in the throes of REM. Am I wearing a watch? Yeah. I like to wear a watch. I was deep in the throes of REM, and my guy at 1:30 in the morning, this is the 10th time I've told the story this week, stood up, pooped in the top corner by the door of his crate, and then I caught him mid-pee. And I just went, oh, my gosh, Maverick, get up, stop. What are you doing? Just mad. Took him out. Made sure he didn't step in the poop. Came back inside, wiped him down with these pet wipes I have. You can see them in the video, right there. Wiped him down with pet wipes. Then I will tell you this: I was perturbed, to say the least. And I when I took him out, I took him with his leash, and then we came back inside. You see that there's a pole. You can't see, it's off camera, and I tied him to that pole, to a support beam. I was like, stay there, don't you move. Then he laid down, because he was tired. And then I go in there, I pick up the poop with the doggy bag, and then there's more in the back, and I do that. Then I toss all of his, the blankets and stuff outside, because they're still wet. Put them on the porch. And then I clean everything. I wipe it down. It's now 2:20 in the morning. I put him back in there, and I'm like, let's go back. And then also because it stinks, because the poop permeated the air. I got the one candle I have left. I have not purchased any candles in a while, and sprayed down the air. My essential oil machine diffuser is broken. So that's what we dealt with on Tuesday morning at 1:30 o'clock in the morning. I went back to sleep at 2:20, woke up at 3:55, went to the gym. Oh, man. I definitely needed an energy drink that day. I also, that morning, right before the gym, I don't like to drink energy drinks often, but when it's times that I need them, I have them stored. I forgot to buy energy drinks today. Anyway, whatever. What else has been going on? I saw Bad Boys 4, which I mentioned. What did I see yesterday? Oh, yesterday I saw the Garfield movie. And this morning at 10:30 a.m., I saw a showing of Inside Out. I think there's about 20 people inside the AMC Dolby Atmos enabled theater. And I got to tell you, it was an unnecessary movie, Inside Out. And I also have to tell you, I'm not kidding. Not kidding the slightest. I laughed so much at Garfield. Yes, it has its issues. Yes, there were things I did not like about it, but man, oh man, I laughed so hard at the Garfield movie. It was just so zany and fun. And then I left, this morning. I used my birthday popcorn. My birthday's coming up. I used a birthday popcorn and a birthday drink because there's no movies coming out between now and June 30th that I can, because you have to use it before the end of the month. So I just use it on this, and I'm sitting there eating popcorn and candy at 11 o'clock. True story, I walked in at 10:55 right when the movie was starting. Like, truly, I got my popcorn, doused it, filled up the cup, which also may or may not have dribbled a little bit in the car. I did. And I walked in, and I heard Joy saying, "This is Riley. She's a hockey player," or something like that. Inside Out 2 does not need to exist. And Joy really does not learn her lesson from the first one. But what happens is necessary, I guess. Also, Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling are not back for Inside Out 2, and it is because of pay disparity. I believe, right? Bill Hader, Inside Out 2. It is pay disparity. They opted not to return. They said, according to Matt Maloney of Puck, Amy Poehler was paid roughly 50 times more for her return than anyone else. Maloney called this, quote, an insult that was politely declined. Yeah, I think that's what happens. Anyway, Tony Hale and Liz Lapira appear as Fear for Bill Hader and Disgust for Mindy Kaling, respectively. In the Garfield movie, I can see Samuel L. Jackson reading his lines. Like, I could just... Oh, my God. It's not that he gives a bad performance. It's just Sam Jackson. I think... And then, my biggest issue with the Garfield movie, there's not enough John, which no one ever said that wants his milquetoast character who spends too much money on his cat and dog, mostly his cat. Garfield is really... Like, Garfield in the comics and every TV show iteration uses Odie, and I feel like he's nicer to him. Garfield's nicer to Odie in this one, whereas Odie is his like right-hand man and just kind of does things to help out Garfield, whether it's building him a hammock or ordering him drone delivered pizza. I think it's really funny. It's a very funny dynamic, and I'm glad Odie went with Garfield for the ride. That's very funny. What was the third thing? I also have an idea for a sequel for the Garfield movie. In the movie, they end up on a farm to help break out a cow. That's part of the story. To steal some milk. That's the actual story. And Garfield, his dad, and Odie. And I think it would be very fun, because there's a lot of talking animals in this movie. I think it'd be very funny if they do a sequel where John... where they're invited to the wedding of two characters that we see in the movie, in this first movie, because John does eventually meet a lot of the characters at the end. But it'd be very funny for them to be invited to this to be invited to this wedding, and if they do a movie version of the show Garfield and Friends, where they have, I think that'd be so funny. Garfield and Friends, and we hear an iteration of that theme song. Such a great show. But there's the pig, the duck, the chicken, and the chick. I love Garfield and Friends. And my biggest issue with the entire movie, Chris Pratt should have put on an affectation. He should have done a Bill Murray impression, just an impression of the original Garfield actor. Because now I can just see Chris Pratt reading. Not the same way that I said Seth, what's his name? Samuel Jackson's reading. And I want to see Chris Pratt kind of talking like this and a little bit sarcastic-y. Also, I do love the relationship between Garfield and Odie, and Garfield, Odie, and John, because it's not obsessive. And also, Garfield loves John. All right, let's move on. I'm done talking about this. This comes from the New York Times, written by Mike Isaac. Grab them, then stump them. Word puzzles on LinkedIn, logic challenges in the Washington Post. For news publishers and tech sites looking to both entice and engage users, games are serious business. This is talking about, how New York Times has purchased games like Wordle and developed new games like Strands. And then LinkedIn, which is owned by Microsoft, has debuted word games this spring. Other places have seen how New York Times is doing with these games that aren't just a crossword puzzle, and they want to make their own versions, and they've exploded. Vox Media has for Vox.com, I get advertisements for their crossword all the time, and it is it makes me think, their crossword, and this is how it works. Their crossword is as big as, New York Times crossword. But in the end, I think people just like doing crosswords. A publication is more than the stories it produces. It's an experience to look forward to, a pleasure, says John Temple, a former journalist and co-founder of Amuse Labs, which sells a software platform that helps publishers create puzzles. They want to create the same satisfying experience for people that they might have had over the years of doing crossword in the newspaper. People would love returning to things that they are accustomed to. I mean, if the New York Times app has every single game, with the exception of Strands, the stuff that's in beta. Like I can pop open the New York Times app right now if you're watching the video. It's exactly what I'm doing. And I can go from today and hit play. And now I've got all the games: Spelling Bee, Connections, Wordle, Crossword Mini, Letterbox, Tiles, Vertex, and Sudoku. And while the other app, the Games app, if you subscribe to that, I mean, you have to subscribe to games in order to play those games. But what the Games app offers is a deeper connection. What is WordleBot? Okay, interesting. That where you can see, hey, there's packs that you can purchase. You know, there's the archive you can get to for the crossword versions. You can see your streak on Spelling Bee. You can see your streak on Wordle and all that stuff. And it's just a deeper connection in order to keep people on these apps. And not everybody, games are different. Not everybody wants to play a big scoped game. Like right now I'm playing Marvel's Spider-Man 2. And while that game is great and it has its thing, sometimes I want to play something else, and the crossword is a great exact opposite thing to do. Even Apple News Plus has a crossword, and it looks really stylized. And it has something called quartiles. Okay, whatever. But this is just a very nice piece that talks about how these companies are building their platforms and they're trying to see their subscribers engage in everything, whether it's reading or on games. Let's move on. This comes from The Hollywood Reporter, written by Zoe G. Phillips. John Leguizamo urges TV Academy to embrace diverse Emmy voting. Quote, "Let this be the start of a new era." John Leguizamo he's been active as of late in terms of speaking on diversity. I mean, he's probably been doing it for years, and this is just now the time when people are paying attention, or maybe he's just getting louder. He wrote a full-page letter that appeared in the Sunday edition of the New York Times, where he says, quote, "The year we truly find equity and see artists of color represented across not just one category, but all categories. Voting began yesterday, June 13th, for the Primetime Emmys, and nominations will be announced on July 17th. The ceremony will be September 15th. Their diversity has had its ebbs and flows when it comes to both the Television and Film Academy. If you're watching the video, you may see me shifting around a lot, or you may hear me shifting around a lot. Nova will not move from this chair today. I sat down to have a meeting with a friend who I write with, and she did not move for that. She stood up, she stretched, and then she got right back down. And my back hurts. Oh, she's moving again. Oh, she hears me. Oh, she just moved to the back of the chair. Thank you. My back hurts because my butt was barely on the chair. The thing is, cats and dogs, pets, they choose different places to sit and that there are their favorites. There's a chair in the bedroom that she usually goes into sometimes. There's a chair on the other side of that couch that she usually goes to sometimes. Sometimes it's the couch. Sometimes it's the high top dining room table over here. Sometimes it's the chair on the table, the chair near the table, or the table itself. The thing is, she has chosen today, actually this week, the desk chair, which is frustrating. Anyway, it's a little aside. What I really like about Leguizamo's, and unfortunately I have not read his letter, but what I really like about Leguizamo's, not even debate, but his plea here is that he's not just covering Latino artists, Latino actors, or any of those. He's doing everybody. He specifically says There are hundreds of prolific non-white artists who deserve to be considered for awards this year, not because they are simply black, brown, indigenous, or Asian, but because they are truly great, exceptional artists who have achieved that greatness with a foot on their neck for far too long. There's what I fear most, or what I'm concerned about most, is when it comes to people fighting for diversity. They're only, to me, it seems as though that there are certain people, not certain groups, not certain styles, but certain people who are only fighting for their group's diversity. They don't see the whole picture. It's a little bit of what I see with the WNBA right now. Yes, there's a whole argument about how they're only focusing on Caitlin Clark. The coverage is only focused on Caitlin Clark, and there were other greats before her. But instead of what it feels like is, take out the push that happened a couple weeks now at this point between her and Asia or Angel, one of them. I think it might have been Asia, but take all that stuff. The WNBA is on track for losing $50 million this year, and it's mostly because of those chartered planes versus $10 million it usually loses. So they have to be in a giant turnaround at some point. Let's just, for right now, not table the discussions about race in the WNBA, but let's get it to a point where they can be on the same level as the NBA, I guess, in terms of making money. The NBA is a very expensive league, and we can't just fight for one set of people. Everybody in the WNBA has got to be, because you're all on the same team. It's the WNBA versus the world now, versus viewers and everything. And so at that point is, I like that Leguizamo is fighting for all people who are people of color, who consider themselves as such, because we just changed the census where now people can say, there was only like Latino and Hispanic, or non-Hispanic, Hispanic and non-Hispanic, and then black / African American, white, all this stuff, and then they finally added Asian, Pacific Islander, North African, and while that seems like it's superfluous, no, we need an Arab. We need to add all those things because some people I read this piece in the New York Times where some people consider themselves, if they were born in Northern Africa and they are darker colored but not exactly black, then they consider themselves Arab, or they consider themselves white, or they consider themselves white with like melanin, or they consider themselves African. There's a lot of nuances, and it seems like it doesn't, like it's to you, if it doesn't matter, then that's great, that's fine, that's wonderful, but there's a whole sect of people it does matter to. Now, speaking of which, this comes from Katie Campione over at Deadline. Diversity in TV's down 12% with Hispanic representation particularly low, Soundbite TV reports. While diversity in the United States continues to grow, it's not being represented on a small screen. The company says that representation of non-white leads on television is down 12% year over year. Breaking that down even further, Samba reports that just 39% of the top billed actors in the top 50 TV shows of 2023 are non-white. Hispanic actors took the hardest hit, accounting for just 6% of top billed actors in those shows, a 40% decrease in representation year over year. What it seems like is, this is going to sound a little, morose is not the term I'm looking for, but let's just go to thesaurus.com, look up morose, and then find something else along these lines. But this is going to sound against it, not against it, but morose, whatever. It feels to me that every year there's like a darling that we kind of focus on when it comes to television or film or music or whatever. So last year it was just the nationality, the raciality of being Asian. You know, we celebrate K-pop, and then the TV show Beef, and things along those lines. But then we lost sight of, okay, what's happening in the for television and movies and film and music and all that stuff, and the and gaming in the Black community. What's happening in the Latino community, and then the years before that it was Black, and then maybe years before that it was Latino. It's just. This is like this kind of goes with what Leguizamo is saying. Or what he's getting at is this representation needs to go all over the place, and it needs to be spread, because these are the people that are going to be the majority of the U.S. at some point. You hear that, whites? We're coming for you. Samba used first-party data to determine the top 25 shows, each from linear and streaming, that were released in January through May of 2024. And we know for a fact, as we've discussed with the Annenberg Inclusion Initiative and representation of color, or color representation, that study, it sounds like I'm tired. I am. I want to watch golf, but this is important. But we know through studies like those that people do, in fact, watch shows and movies with diverse characters. I just saw a press release for the Until Dawn TV show, which is based on the video game, which has the video game has a very diverse cast. And my concern with the Until Dawn TV show was that it was going to have a diverse cast. And you know what? It does, which is good. Samba's latest findings show a positive correlation of 39% among non-white households watching programs with higher percentages of non-white stars. Black households saw the strongest correlation with 46%. My one issue with that is that, and I've talked to people, Fellow Blacks. Fellow Blacks is the spinoff of Fellow Travelers. Is that the show on Showtime? I've never seen it, but I believe that is a Matt Bomber show. I'll watch it. It's a queer show. It's Pride Month. I'll celebrate. Yeah, Matt Bomber and Jonathan Bailey. God, Matt Bomber's a handsome man. Good Lord. Anyway, it's a queer show. See, look at me. Don't cancel me. But Tubi. Oh, God. Tubi puts out and I will say this, the crappiest original movies and the crappiest original shows that I've only seen clips from, and I will never support that stuff. But black audiences are flocking towards it, unfortunately. I just saw another press release that said Tubi is it beat Disney Plus, Netflix, Paramount, and Peacock this past month in viewership, which is insane. But I don't like what it's doing. I really don't. I really, really do not. Anyway, diversity is important, and we obviously want to see shows like Shogun and The Underdogs and Mr. and Mrs. Smith and movies like Role Play. Oh, I know what The Underdogs is. That's a Snoop Dogg movie. Yeah, but we still want to see things like that. We want to see all styles of these shows, and I hope at some point we can just move past like having the only way that those stories are being, the only way that diverse actors are being cast is that a story like those Tubi shows that I don't like are being made. They point to shows like CBS's that's Netflix. CBS is The Equalizer, which stars Queen Latifah in the spinoff from the TV show the remake of the TV show, and I guess the spinoff from the movie. I don't know if they're in the same universe. I don't know, but it stars her and Liz Lapira, aforementioned from Inside Out 2. She's in the show. I mean, we can have diverse things that don't also have to harken back to their nationalities. I love it. So let's do more of it. Let's do more diversity. Title of the episode. All right. And oh man, I have 2 more stories and not enough episode to go around. Well, who cares? This comes from Deadline, written by Dade Hayes. Streaming bundles lower consumer intent to churn by 16%, a new study finds. This is very interesting. This comes from Majid. We're going to have more streaming bundles. This is true. This is like, even without this study, we're going to have more streaming bundles. It costs a lot of money in order to run a streaming service. Before, they only had to worry, networks only had to worry about broadcast and cable. And then came the online revolution, and now we're dealing with streaming. There's so many ways to watch whatever you want to watch. Right now, I have a quad screen up, not on this screen, but on the TV, of the this is so embarrassing. Oh God. I have a quad screen up of the US Open right now, of the PGA Tour. And that's via YouTube TV. And they've got 4 feeds, 2 of which are one's from USA, another's from NBC, the local NBC affiliate, and then the other 2 are from NBC Sports cameras that are being fed into YouTube TV. I can watch it there. I can go to Peacock and watch the US Open there. I'm sure I can go to the NBC Golf app and watch it there. But the thing is, like, being able to watch golf and all the golfers all at once and do their things. Same thing goes for anything like on YouTube. Like, I can go to YouTube right now, type in a show like Garfield and Friends. There's probably 22, minutes of episodes up there. Or I could go to Pluto TV and it's there as well. There's just a lot of way to watch things. And now we're seeing a new Disney Plus and Hulu and Max bundle coming up. Paramount, with all its troubles, is trying to be bundled in with the likes of other streaming platforms. It should be bundled in with Peacock. People often, if you have Apple TV, if you have Fire Stick or Prime Video, you can subscribe to channels within those. So you can subscribe to Peacock. You can subscribe to Paramount Plus. You can subscribe to Max without ever leaving your Apple TV app or your Prime Video app. And that's just easier for some people because it's all bundled in. For Verizon, for T-Mobile, you can subscribe to multiple streaming services with their bundles, whether it's one streaming service or a couple at a time. But people, at least 16% of the churn rate is lower due to increased availability of bundled plans. And bundles are also boosted by customer intent to keep a subscription longer than 6 months by 15%. People don't mind ads right now because it's cheaper. If you can get Disney Plus and Max and Hulu for under $20 as opposed to paying $25 for the Disney bundle and now $20 for Max, you're gonna be happy with what you have. Apple TV Plus is poised to benefit from the most from bundling, Magid determined, with a new study showing a 28% reduction in intent to churn. I feel like, as cheap as Apple TV Plus is right now, I feel like it's an addition to what people typically subscribe to. Like, so if I had an Apple TV and I was primarily an iPhone user, an Apple user, because I have an iPad, I have the Mac. But if I was primarily an Apple user, I would just use an Apple TV, and then I would go, oh, well, Apple TV is, the thumbs down was not intentional. Apple TV is my main home base, and why don't I just want to see everything I can get within here. Why don't I just subscribe to the MLS package and Paramount Plus and this and that in the Apple TV ecosystem so I can get one bill on the third and know that that's happening there. And then, You forget, and it's still there. Anyway, we're going to see more bundles, and it's going to be not as big as a problem as we are seeing with people. Experian, I see commercials all the time. Well, you forgot you subscribed to this. No, I know I subscribed to this. Okay. And this is the last one. This comes from Winston Cho at The Hollywood Reporter. Behind Netflix's real-life legal dramas. Netflix is known for making these... it used to be HBO, it used to be Showtime, but Netflix has taken the mantle of making these mini-series based around real-life actions. When They See Us, Baby Reindeer, The Crown, The Queen's Gambit, Inventing Anna, and now there's like true legal troubles around a lot of these. I believe the woman from Baby Reindeer that the main woman, the stalker is based on, Martha, I believe, is suing Netflix for a boatload of money. Apparently, Liz Califf, a lawyer who handles financing, production, and legal clearances for productions, says scrutiny around dramatizations has increasingly created a, quote, difficult dynamic in which creatives must be warned against, quote, embellishing things like adding negative attributes or enhancing negative depictions. She stresses, now we have this battery of cases going to our point. This makes us even more careful. One of the lawyers, Linda Fairstein, she was the head of the sex crimes unit investigating the case of the Central Park Five from When They See Us, the actual person that is based on. She sued for defamation in 2020, saying that parts of the story never happened. This is what you like. This is not what you get, but this is what happens when people. I'm sorry, I'm distracted right now. The cat has stood up. She knows it's 9 minutes to dinner for her, which is insane. Now I can scoot back in a chair. My back can get some rest. But the case was brought to court for $8 million. She wanted in terms of damages. The artistic liberties they took with the show, what Ava DuVernay took and Netflix took with the show, are being argued against, and apparently Netflix is losing. The same thing goes for Baby Reindeer. Richard Gadd made that show. Fiona Harvey is the woman that Martha's based on. She filed her defamation suit on June 6th. I have not seen that show, and I know the general story, but there's one line in this piece that nearly ruined it for me. All I saw was twice convicted. I went, no! Okay. Oh, hold on. Here's a piece. Another reason studios might pump the brakes on embellishments and dramatizations: insurance. Not only have premiums on such projects shot up, in some instances, as much as 250% in the past decade, but deductibles for some high-risk showrunners and writers can reach $250,000. Wow. So that means somebody like, who's a guy... Oh God, what is it called? I'm going about this in the most roundabout way. The only show I can think of right now is Feud. Who created that? Ryan Murphy. So that means Ryan Murphy his insurance premiums must be out the roof in terms of defamation. Who? So Netflix has started doing things like including disclaimers with their shows. That are based on real life topics, but I think they should have been doing that from the beginning. That way, that'll get you out. That'll get you out of the hot water almost instantly. The thing, like it's my apartment complex here. We have a parking garage, and it's very tight, and but people continue to move here with giant trucks and giant SUVs, and And then they also whip around so quickly in the garage. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for the moment. God forbid, but I'm waiting for the moment someone hits me, and I'm going to sue them. I'm going to sue my. I was going to say the name of the name of the apartment complex, but I'm not doing that. I'm going to sue everybody. I'm suing everybody on the floor. I'm suing everybody in the building. But yeah, I mean, the preventative thing is if they put up a sign that says go 10 miles an hour, then that can get people off their back. So why didn't Netflix do this from the beginning and say, hey, when they see us, there are some embellishments? Because when they put it out without a disclaimer, you paint that picture and saying that this is as true as it possibly is. And it's just kind of not sophomoric. It's kind of a junior move on their part. All right. I'm done. Listen, if you like what you heard here, head to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where I swear to God, I will put up every single episode of this show, of the other shows. I just have not had time to edit recently. But you got the podcast on the RSS feeds, and that's important. You can follow us. And there's also interviews with your favorite comedians and actors and producers and such. You can go to youtube.com/cpluscomedy to see a video version of the show, as well as the other shows, LinkedIn Logs, which is the Jobs podcast, and Late Night Lately, which is the Late Night Show. You can find all of those youtube.com/cpluscomedy or cpluscomedy.com. You can follow us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, @cpluscomedy. Follow me on those platforms, @ChadBlackWhite. Thank you so much for listening. I'm done. I'll see you later. Goodbye.